Hello again, people. Welcome back to HemingwayLand.com, your source for quality, affordable land in the states of New Mexico, Hawaii, and now today our very first property, first of hopefully many, in the state of Colorado. This is a really nice property, and I'm going to have a lot to talk about in this video, but I will just say that before I ventured into Colorado, I did a great deal of research to try to find a county, try to find a subdivision, where we could find property that sort of checked off all the boxes of things that our buyers typically look for. So if you're a regular visitor to the site and you're the type of person who's looking for a property that is in a well-developed area with utilities but does not have an HOA, if you're looking for a forested lot, if you're looking for something that's close to state parks, lakes, as well as hunting areas, again, this property really checks all these boxes. And the best part of it is that there is no HOA that governs this property. There's no one there who's charging you money for owning land in the region. No one coming up with ticky-tack fines and rules that you have to abide by, etc. So you're going to have all the freedom of the type of property that normally doesn't have these features, as well as all the features of a property that typically would sit in an HOA. So I really like this one. I think you guys will too. With all that said, let's get to the details. This is reference number LACO-1016, located in Las Animas County, Colorado, in the southeast portion of the state. This is in the Rancho La Garita subdivision. It is 5 acres, and as you saw up top here, these 5 acres are priced at $22,000. So, with all that said, let's pull this up on a map. Do as we do with all of our listings, come down here, click any one of the GPS coordinates, and up on Google Maps the property shall appear. So before we get into specifics, let's go to map view, pull back, and talk about where this is in the Centennial State. Alright, first off, Las Animas County is down here in the southern portion of the state, borders New Mexico here to its south. And the property sits very close to the I-25 corridor here, which will take you up into nearby Pueblo, Colorado Springs, and ultimately to Denver in the sort of central part of the state. For the record, Denver is about a 3-hour, as the crow flies, type of drive. If we right-click and measure distance, you could say, yeah, roughly about 3 hours, 3 hours north. And of course, Colorado Springs, Pueblo, a lot closer. This property sits really just right outside the small town of Weston, as well as Trinidad. Trinidad is the larger of the two towns. That's where you're going to find a super Walmart, as well as grocery stores, shopping areas, things like that. Schools, churches, hospitals, so on and so forth. Most notably, however, there is the Trinidad Lake State Park, which really sits only about 15 minutes from the subject property over here. It should also be noted the property sits in very close proximity to the Spanish Peak State Wildlife Area, which is an excellent hunting area, excellent for hunting, camping, hiking, so on and so forth. And of course the lake, if it needs to be mentioned, great for swimming, boating, fishing, so on and so forth. You've also got a monument park over here, as well as you can see from the green that's illustrated on the map, about 7 bajillion other great sort of mountainy forest areas here within southern Colorado. Too many to list. I should also mention, because we are so familiar with New Mexico here, that the property sits relatively close proximity to one of the best skiing areas within the country, Taos Ski Valley over here, and nearby Angel Fire. So really a lot of great attractions very close by to the property, particularly outdoor attractions. A lot to do, a lot to see. Now, let's talk about property specifics. Zoom in on this. As noted, this is in the Rancho La Garita subdivision, which I should just quickly point out is all of the area that you see right here, basically. It's a subdivision that is about yay big like this. And if we zoom in on this one, you can see that the specific property sits here. It has road access along both Buffalo Trail on its northwest side, as well as Smith's Trek on its northeast side. Now, because in map view we can't get a sense of the actual size, shape, location of the property, I'm going to direct your attention back to the listing page. And if you come down here, we have, as with all of our listings, we have the Google Earth representation to give you a sense of the exact size, shape, location of the lot. As well as we have the plat map. For all of you people who like to check me on these plat maps and make sure that the lot actually exists and that it's actually that size, this is it up here, highlighted in turquoise, but as you can see, as we've demonstrated, that's the size, that's the shape, and it does have that road access along both sides there. Now, it should be noted, you can see a couple things here on the map. I'm going to go to the photo gallery in just a second because we've got some beautiful photos of the region. But one of the first things that jumps out is, number one, conveniently you have utilities. You have a power pole, power lines right here at the property boundary. They go up and down not only this Buffalo Trail, but also up and down Smith's Trek. You can see them here and you can see them elsewhere in this area. Now, additionally, one thing I want to show you guys is that if we go to the 3D view here on Google Maps, if you hold down Control and you just sort of finesse your mouse around, what you can see is that one of the nice things about this property is that it has this sort of cutout area here where if you want a nice flat buildable piece of terrain where you can, try to park a house or a camper or build some sort of hunting cabin or something, you will have that little degree of difficulty to build in an area like that, particularly with the utilities so close by. What this property also has, however, is terrain to it, a sort of elevation to it, where as you go south, as you go further away from this road over here, the property rises. And it rises up to reveal some really nice views of the surrounding area. Now, my photographer trekked, apparently, most of this 5 acres, and he said that as you go up the hillside, there are cutout areas here in which, it is sort of flat and you can build up here. But the point is, the further you go up this area, if your desire is to build on this property, the more work you're going to have to do, but I think also the more reward you're going to have with it, because as you start to kind of just sort of scan the valley here, you can see what kind of views you're going to have off in the distance. Of course, Google Maps does not do it justice, so let me go back to the actual photo gallery here. I'm going to walk you guys through this. First off, as noted, these are some photos from Trinidad Lake State Park, which is about 15 minutes due east of the property. And if we go through here, I think because of COVID, most of the park was shut down that day, or there weren't a lot of people out there. But it's a really large Lake State Park area, about 800 acres, I believe it occupies, something like that. And of course, great opportunities for fishing, boating. Bring your own boat. There's probably boat rentals out there ordinarily, as well as jet skiing and windsurfing, wind sailing, things like that. Finally, when we get to the property-specific photos here, a couple things that jump out immediately. Now, this is along Smith's Trek here. You can see we've got the picture of the road sign here. A couple things that jump out immediately. Number one is that you have well-maintained sort of dirt gravel roads out here, which is a nice feature. It means that you're going to be able to traverse these roads in any vehicle type. The other thing that jumps out at us is that, number one, you have the utilities that go all throughout the region, but you also have gas lines, and a little further up the road you can see some underground utilities that represent, they are the phone company's presence in the region. And if you'd like further proof of that, oh look, we have close-ups of these things. Colorado Interstate Gas Company, number one, and number two, well, I'm not entirely sure who this belongs to, but I know it's called the telephone company, so local phone company. But then as we go through this, you can get a better sense of just how sort of picturesque and really beautiful this property is. This is the cutout area that I was pointing out earlier in the video. You can see that there is land here close to the road that should be a lot easier to build on, a lot easier to park a mobile or a modular home on. But then really as you go through this, you can see the forested area here, these beautiful trees that they've got. And as we go, you will see that my photographer ventured further and further up the hillside and gets into the forested area here where you start getting views of the local community. Now, as I go through these, I'm just going to talk about some other things so you can look at the photos. Number one, so no HOA in this area, no yearly dues. I have heard of a voluntary $50 annual dues that some entity out here collects. But the point is there's no homeowners association, there's no property owners association, and there are no mandatory annual dues that are associated with the property. By the way, so these are some of the flatter areas that we're talking about here in this, where you can see what's doable out here. You can see that there is actually areas that you can build on up the side of this hillside. Anyway, additionally, oh, hello, we're already here. Additionally, we have views here of the valley, the types of views that you get from the top of the property. Of course, as you get up here to the top of the property, you can see that most of this is a kind of rocky terrain up top here. They do provide some really nice views of the nearby Spanish Peaks. What I was going to say is that the other thing that's notable about the subdivision is that mobile and modular homes are acceptable out here. RVs, I can't find any information on RVs. I can't find any time limits on RVs. As far as tiny homes, they also don't get much into specifics about minimum square footage. That being said, Las Animas County does, and Las Animas County dictates at least a minimum square footage for any structure built on land within its jurisdiction. So depending on your definition of a tiny home, that may be applicable for you. That may be something that you could pull off there. Anyway, purpose of going through the photo gallery here is just to demonstrate exactly how picturesque this region is, show you guys the trees, show you guys the hillside, and the types of views that you will have from this area. It should also be noted, guys, that I'm going to have a drone video down here at the bottom of the listing page between the photo gallery and between the price down here. It's going to be added after this listing goes live. Strongly encourage you to check that out. It'll give you an even better sense of the property, the terrain, and its surroundings. Blah, blah, blah. Now, I was just talking about the lack of an HOA out here. Just want to point out to you guys, there are covenants, there are restrictions that go with the land. They're like the really obvious sort of things like disposal of trash and discharging of firearms. If you come up here to this link and click on this, it's going to take you to this PDF, which are the original covenants from the 1970s. This page plus one page for signatures is all that remains, all that ever was of actual rules out here for land within the region. So you can see that they have some things here about firearms, about nuisances, about garbage and refuse disposal, so on and so forth. But it's not the kind of strict stuff where they dictate what your property can look like, what you can build on it, what color paint swatches you can use, so on and so forth. And yes, I'm not exaggerating when I say paint swatches. I have seen that dictated before. Additionally, here on the listing page, we also have some other helpful links for you guys, such as points of interest here. Trinidad Lake State Park, of course, is the big one. You click any one of these three here, Bosque del Oso State Wildlife Area, the Spanish Peak State Wildlife Area. It's going to take you to their respective websites or some Colorado State website for each of them, where you can learn more about all the things that are available to you out there. It should be noted, I talked about the lake. I haven't really talked about the hunting that's available out here in Bosque del Oso, as well as in with the Spanish Peaks area. These areas, you can see they have enumerated here what species are out there. Of course, there are major elk herds in southern Colorado, but they also have deer, they also have rabbit, squirrel, turkey, so on and so forth. And of course, you could go hiking, you could go camping out there. It's not just exclusively for hunting, but it is also very close by to the property. Now, let's say this is a property that you're interested in and you want to learn more about building on the land. You want to kind of dig into that a little bit before you spend $22,000. We've got some helpful links down here, as we always do, in our county contact information. The first is the Las Animas County Building Department, which I guess is Colorado's equivalent of a planning and zoning department. So if you click on this, what you'll see is that, number one, they have a very helpful website. If you actually explore this a little bit, you're going to see they have some helpful PDFs here about building permits, fees that are involved with that, things like that. In the digging that I did on this, I can see that it's infinitely more informative than the average New Mexico county's website. And my guess is they probably have most of the information you would need here without having to call their office, since anytime you call a planning and zoning office, they're usually out, quote, in the field 75% of the time. So my guess is most of the documentation information that you would need here about actually getting permitted to build whatever it is that you want to build out there, whether that's a new home, a vacation home, an Airbnb, or a hunting cabin, probably most of that is going to be enumerated here. Next, the San Isabel Electric Company is the one that services this region. They're the ones that have the power poles out there. You know, usually when you have power at the lot line, as you do with this subject property, again, just kind of illustrating here with the photos, when you have power that's right there on the property like this, it's usually not that difficult to get, you know, whatever it is you're getting extended, usually just a matter of wire out to the structure that you're building onto the property, wire, cable, whatever it is. Usually not that difficult, usually not that expensive. Of course, if you want to have that conversation with them in advance of making this purchase, always a good idea to reach out to the local utility companies. Call this number right here, click on this link right here. It will take you to their website where you can dig in more to the cost that might be associated with that. In general, when you have power at the lot line like that, usually they'll hook you up for free because they know they've got a paying customer, or they'll hook you up for some nominal price, etc. Now, one more link I want to point out to you guys, because we get a lot of questions about wells, about drilling wells, about getting permitted for wells. Colorado Division of Water Resources is the Colorado equivalent of New Mexico's Office of the State Engineer. So they control all permitting for wells and water rights within the state. If you click on this, it's going to take you to their website where you can do a lot more research into this and pull up the requisite forms that you would need to sort of begin that process, apply for that process, or even just reach out to their office and ask them, get a sense of cost, get a sense of degree of difficulty and this sort of thing. Usually the best people to talk to, however, it should always be noted, are vendors who actually drill wells in that local region, because they can always speak to you about water table depth, as well as cost per drilling down, you know, X dollars per foot, etc. And they could give you a sense of what wells in La Garita Ranch typically run because the water table depth is, you know, yay far down, etc. So, a ton of good resources here that we provided you guys to do your research on this. As noted earlier, this is a property that I just think checks all the boxes, the kind of stuff that you guys are always looking for, as far as a forested lot, as far as having utilities, as far as being close to great features like state park like this, and hunting areas. A lot to do, a lot to see out there, and the fact that it has no HOA I think is the real selling point, etc. So with all that said, I just want to point out to you guys, this is a property, of course, that we closed through title. Otero County Title handled this. They handled it slowly, very slowly, but they did insure it, so we'll be providing a warranty deed on this. So if this is ultimately a property that you're interested in purchasing, just come up here, click the Buy Now button. It's going to take you to secure checkout. With properties in this price range, we don't ask for $22,000 at checkout. We ask for a $500 non-refundable earnest money deposit. Let me say that again, guys. Non-refundable. Don't give us money if you're not going to buy the property. A lot of people give us money and they change their mind. And I'm like, well, it's non-refundable. Anyway, point being, $500 down secures the property. Nobody else can buy it. And then give us some information here that we'll need for the deed, email address, phone number, tax address, so on and so forth. Agree to the terms of service, and on the next page you can enter credit or debit card information to put down that $500 deposit. Once you do, we are going to reach out to you and ask how you would like to close on the property. Now, for the record, when you get in this price range, we strongly encourage all of our buyers, close with a title company. It does a number of things for you. Number one is it's going to provide title insurance, so if you are going to take out a loan to build on this property, it's something a bank is just not going to give you money for unless they see that you have title insurance. So it does that. More importantly, however, is that it gives you the security of your money going through a third-party intermediary. You're not handing it directly to us. You are letting them both disperse the cash as well as create all the new conveyance documents such as the deed, etc. So, with that said, title company provides a lot of security. If you come up here to our How It Works Buying From Us page, you can see this process detailed here under the type of closing recommended title escrow. So, let me clear my throat. So, the way that this process works is you place the earnest money deposit, we're going to draft a contract, you sign it, we submit it to title, and title's going to do the rest. And they're not going to ask you for the rest of your money until such a time as they are done preparing all the documents, preparing the conveyance. So, once they're ready, they're going to ask us to sign the new deed, they're going to ask you to wire them the money, and then they're going to exchange both. For the record, guys, we have here a sample of our sale purchase agreement. If you click this link, it's going to bring us up here. One page for signatures. Very easy to read, very easy to understand. Easy to read, easy to understand. But point being, title company won't do anything without a signed contract, and we won't write a contract without the $500 earnest money deposit. So, FYI, things to keep in mind. Anyway, my choking aside, I hope the video was enjoyable. I hope you learned a lot about this property. I hope you really like it. If you have any questions, as always, leave a comment here on the YouTube. Shoot us an email, support@hemingwayland.com, or give us a call, 702-919-7170. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we will see you in the next video.